Hey, hey, hey! Happy Monday, y'all, and welcome to another Monday Live, a time I join you every Monday, 7 p.m. EST, to align biblical principles with your entrepreneurial journey. I'm beyond excited to be here to pour into you. So, today is part three in a series I started a couple weeks ago called God Wants You to Profit. Now, as you're coming in, number one, whether you're live or watching the replay, couple things I want you to do. Number one, say hello. As my grandmother would say, don't walk in this house and not speak. So you're in my virtual studio today. So at least say, hey, girl, hey, tell me where you are in the world. If as I share, what I share resonates with you, if you have questions about what I'm sharing, I want to hear from you. So you'll see me looking over in the chat. And those of you that come and watch a replay, I still want you to chat because I still do come back and look at every single comment. All right. So again, today is part three. Now, I have a little bit of a confession to make. You ready? So those of you that have been here with me in part one and part two, everything I taught you. Part one was He created you to finish it. Part two was called God Doesn't Care If You Buy Gucci, right? God doesn't care. By the way, if you missed part one or part two, you can go watch those episodes. The way I teach one builds on the next and on my YouTube channel. Some of you are watching me now on my YouTube channel, so you can see it there. And rjnetwork.com is where you go. So the way that I always teach you guys, the reason why it's a series is because it's so much. And my commitment is to be here about 30 minutes, a little more sometimes, because you've had a busy day. But I want to give you some actionable insight because God does want you to profit. And really, this is in alignment with God's calling in my life to make sure people are adding faith, purpose, and profit. Those are the three ingredients that God has called me to serve high performing women of faith with as you start or grow your businesses into multiple streams of revenue. All right. So, part one, He created you to finish it. God has work for you to do. God doesn't care if you buy Gucci. I'm going to talk a teeny bit about what I talked about last week, but I need you to understand God doesn't care. He really doesn't. He wants to know, are you worshiping Gucci? Hello. Are you so focused on getting that Gucci that you're losing why He created you to finish it? You see how part one goes into part two, right? Again, I see more of y'all are joining. So say hello as you're coming in. Okay. So part three here is the base of your profitability. Now, I wonder if you realize that you have a base to your profit. And some of you guys are saying, Nicole, what are you talking about base? So I want you to think about what base means. So this is according to Webster. It says base is usually the foundation, starting point, or main ingredient of something. It's the bottom of something considered as its support. So there's a couple of different ways you can look at base. Base, when I think about cooking, it makes me think of the base of a recipe. An example, gumbo. Now, any of my cooks in the house, how many of y'all are cooks in the house? You know that if you don't put the right ingredients in your roux, which is the base of gumbo, your whole gumbo is ruined. I don't care how great the sausage is, or the crab is, or the shrimp, or whatever you put in it. If the roux is not right, which is the base, your gumbo is nasty. Right? Can I get an amen? Anybody ever had some nasty gumbo? But my mother is from Galveston, Texas. And there was a restaurant up here by me. I live in Loudoun County, Virginia. And she was so excited they had gumbo. She said, "Ooh, it was so greasy and nasty." Right. And we laughed about the roux because it doesn't matter if everything else is good in it, if the roux is bad. But that's the base, y'all. The second thing that came to mind when I thought about base, we are now in spring. Happy April, by the way. Today's April 1st. Hey, Cabet. Hope I'm saying your name right. Listen, today's April 1st, and y'all are quiet in the comments, so at least say something to me if what I'm saying is good and you getting what I'm saying. And as this weekend, my husband has been talking and we've been thinking about getting things ready for spring. Well, not spring, for summer, I should say, because summer is our favorite time of year. Our pool opens in 2 weeks, and he's so excited. So he's like, I want to get all the outside ready for our pool to open. So as I was thinking about the base, the what came to my mind is the base of an umbrella. I'm gonna pull up a picture so you see what I'm talking about. Now, this is not my backyard, by the way, but this is the umbrella that I have outside. You guys see the base of this umbrella at the bottom? Not the umbrella itself, but the base. The thing that's interesting is when my husband and I bought a big umbrella like this because we wanted to cover our entire seating outside when we're sitting outside and we have a dining room table and a lounge area. Hey, Sherry, that we sit outside. We wanted to get a huge umbrella that cover us while we were sitting outside. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And here's the thing that's interesting, y'all. You see that base there, right? And I'm gonna come off camera because I want you to get this. We were so excited about that big umbrella that we didn't think about the fact that the base wasn't strong enough to take the wind. So we leave the umbrella up year round. And when a wind comes underneath that umbrella, and it happens in the summer too, that umbrella blew away. This is when we lived in Massachusetts. We had the same umbrella there too, right? Hey, Shirley, right? Why? Why did the umbrella blow away? Because the base wasn't strong. What we had to do was go and we bought some really big, like those big square marble blocks. We got them from Home Depot. We put two in each of those four quadrants. That holds down our base. We had to strengthen our base. I know some of y'all are saying, what's this have to do with me and my profitability? Well, I want you to get this. Many of you, the reason why your business isn't growing, those of you that have been in business for years, or you haven't started your business yet, is because your base isn't strengthened. What's your base? Your mindset. Let me break it down for you, okay? Our belief is established by our base. Listen, our base is mental patterns established by what we know or what we've been through. Our base, how we see things. I'm not talking about your degree. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the years you spend in your industry. You have that too. But what we don't realize is that mixes with things you've been through that then defines your base or things people have told you that you should do. One of my clients, I remember all of her family told her that she should be a lawyer. And then she got offered to be a partner in her law firm. But in her heart, she knew she was meant to be a journalist. So do I go after perception or do I go after this thing that's stirring in my soul, which is usually your purpose? She had to make a hard decision. And see, if her base was off, that decision would have been based on perception. That's what I talked to you about. God doesn't care if you buy Gucci. Y'all getting this series now? You understanding where I've taken you? Because it's your base that's going to dictate what's possible for you. Okay. So listen, there's a Bible verse. Now listen, Paul wrote this letter to the people in Corinthians in 2 Corinthians 10:3-6, that he was talking about the very same thing. Okay. So let me read it to you. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. There's that word, strongholds. Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. So let me break this down a little bit for you, okay? First part, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. See, our battle is not always an earthly battle. A spiritual battle, listen, the enemy's always going to try to get you in your mindset. When Moses went and God groomed Moses to be the one to stand in the gap for his people. Quick story of Moses. This one might be long, by the way, because I got so much to give y'all, but I'm committed to give you this content. So bear with me. And I have slides because I'm going to go deep in a minute. But I need you to get this before I start going deep into our steps, because y'all know I give you steps every week. So Moses, when he was born, Pharaoh put out a decree to kill every Israelite child. So what Moses' mom did, y'all know this story. And matter of fact, it was on Saturday night. um, Moses' mom put Moses in the Nile, hoping that someone would find him and spare him. Well, look who found him. The princess, the king's daughter, found him, and she made Moses her baby. King didn't know that her baby was an Israelite. So Moses grew up in the palace, y'all. He grew up royal. And there came a time, to make a long story short, that he then realizes that he's an Israelite, and God tells him, listen, you've got to go and stand a gap for your people and let your people be free. So what Moses had to do was fight the stronghold that said to him, but I stutter. How can I go in front of the Pharaoh and I stutter? God is like, I don't care about none of that. I can go on and on about example after example. Go read Jeremiah 1:5, where God tells Jeremiah, I'm sending you to these people. He says, but God, I'm too young. See, your mindset will keep you right where you are. And so we've got to, before I can even talk to you, and yes, I'm gonna talk to you guys about how you're gonna make money. I'm gonna talk to you about that. That's probably episode 5. But if we don't do these pieces to get you positioned to make profit, you'll never make it. I don't care what God has in store for you. If you don't do the work to be ready for it, it's like, a lump of coal, or a diamond rather. A diamond starts as a lump of coal. If it doesn't do the work to burn off the coal, it doesn't become a diamond. Okay. So when we walk in the flesh, our war is not a flesh war. Verse 4 here. Again, this is 2 Corinthians 10:4 now. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. I'm glad you think it's good, Shirley. I appreciate you. So again, what is a stronghold? Let me read that again, y'all. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds. God gives you the power to pull them down, but you got to do the work. And many of you don't even realize you have a stronghold. So tonight we're gonna do the work. Say, you ready? Y'all ready to do the work? Those of you some of you are here, some of you will watch the replay. I need you to understand, if you're gonna go after the abundantly above all that God has with your name on it, you got to position yourself the right way to go and get it. Now, listen, as I'm sharing this with you, this is something that God had to work through with me. Oh, I'm gonna tell you about me in a minute, right? So I need you to understand that God intends to destroy strongholds if you do the work it takes to release them. Okay. So listen, the Bible uses the term strongholds to describe harmful thought patterns, arrogant attitudes, or messages from the outside world that have left a lasting impression and are opposed to God's intention for you. Okay. So what I'm going to walk you through during our time tonight are, you ready? The 3 steps to redefine your base of profitability. I'm going to walk you through 3 steps. Now, listen, I got a lot to give you guys, so I'm going to kind of go fast, which is why I have slides. I'm still going to try to do it in the next 15 minutes, but we might go a little over today. Hope y'all are all right with that. Okay. So here's what people don't realize. So we think your knowledge, then you go get some experience will equal your success. This is what most of us think. This is the way most of us live our life, is that we feel like, okay, I'm gonna go to school or I'm gonna learn this thing that I really want to do. Then I'm gonna get some experience in it. And the more experience I have will then dictate how I climb that corporate ladder, that uh, proverbial, that's the word I'm trying to say, ladder. Y'all with me? We don't realize is before even that knowledge is what I call your bankroll zip code. Hey, Pam. That's the place that many of us don't even realize, is that we have our base is what I call your bankroll zip code. So the first thing we're gonna look at is, I want you to really get clear on your bankroll zip code. You ready? Okay, so listen. By the way, this is my bankroll zip code. So those of you that don't know this, I'm from South Central LA. Yes. If you saw the movie Boys in the Hood, I grew up probably 10 blocks from where they filmed that movie. And although I have a master's degree, I was teaching as an adjunct professor. When my business was failing, and it was, those of you that have heard my story, it wasn't because of my experience. It wasn't because, listen, I didn't apply even to teach. I was teaching at graduate school level. This is before I had my PhD. I never even applied for those jobs. One of my previous professors asked me to come speak to her class one day about the work I was doing in the field. And then she said, you should teach. And the next day I know I got a call from the dean. When I moved from LA and I was at USC, by the way, taught at 2 prestigious universities, never applied for either job. When I moved from LA, met my husband, moved to Boston, the dean of the school at USC called me and said, Nicole, I don't see you on the teaching roster. What's going on? And I said, Dean Jackie, I called you. I left you a voicemail. I came by your office to tell you I was moving. She called Boston University. Why am I sharing that with you? Because my business was still failing. Why? My bankroll zip code was in the way. Had a growing business, taught at two prestigious universities. I can go on and on about all the opportunities that God had put before me. And yet, my base was not strengthened. Come on, somebody. I'm telling on my own self. So I want to walk through 5 things quickly that define your bankroll zip code. And I want you to really, really have an honest conversation with yourself. And really, I'm going to suggest between today and next Monday when I come back live, because I've got part more to pour into you on this. This is a 6-part series. This is only part 3. I want you to see what is hindering you, okay? So, first thing, cultural influencers. So, as an African American woman, what could being black, how could that influence you? You know, I look at my mom's generation who went through the civil rights movement. Well, I did too, but she was heavily in it. And even being a country girl, that cultural influence as a black woman has to do with how she sees money. Economic influencers could be where you live. You know, growing up in South Central LA, you know, we used to say things that we're gonna rob Peter to pay Paul, and money doesn't grow on trees, and I can go on and on and on, right? So because of that, the way I saw money was different than the way I see money now. I had to really start to dissipate the stronghold that I had about money. And it had to do with my economic influencers, and it had to also do with cultural influencers, gender influencers. Now, you know, what's interesting is there are some places that don't think women should own their own businesses. That's never hindered me. But maybe that might hinder you. Maybe in your family, women aren't supposed to. You know, when I met my husband, it was interesting. My mother-in-law, my mentor mother-in-law, God rest her soul, she was a doctor. Adrian Lash Jones was the chair of African American Studies at Oberlin College. You would think that gender influences didn't stop her, but the time that she grew up, a woman was supposed to keep a good home and not work, just take care of her children. But something shifted in her. What shifted her bankroll zip code? When my husband and all his brothers went off to college, she decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to school. She went all the way through and got her PhD. So she's totally my mentor mother in law. Why am I sharing that with you? Because my husband said that his father, he came home once and his father had on an apron. He said, Daddy, what's going on? Because he grew up with his mom being a homemaker. His dad said, hey, you know, son, things change. See, they had to realize, and I love that my mother in law realized who she was. She was on the board of the YWCA. I can go on and on about the great things that she did because she didn't let her bankroll zip code keep her where she was. And according to the time that she grew up in the 50s, a woman should, her job was in the house. Hello. Geographical influencers. I told you about being from South Central LA, but depending on where you're from, that can also influence how you see money, how you look at money, and then spiritual influencers. So we're going to talk about some spiritual ones in a minute. But I really want you guys to write these 5 things down. And over the next 7 days, pay attention. When you think things that you can't do with money or you think things about your money, look at what might be influencing you. What might be a stronghold that you don't even realize that you have about money? Now, here's an interesting thing here. Romans 12:2 says, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Many of you need to renew your mind about one of these 5. Just told you about what my mother in law did. Come on, somebody. One of these is a place. And here's the thing, it's not a one-time thing, it's an ongoing thing because I can see things creep back up in me. Listen, I remember my pastor used to say, new levels, new devils. Y'all ever heard that? So the higher you climb, let me say this, the higher you climb, that bankroll zip code that has influenced you all this time. Listen, I'm 54 years old. Okay. So if I've been dealing with this for 54 years, it's not going to go away overnight. It's not going to take me 54 minutes to get rid of it. Right? Come on. It takes time. So if it didn't happen overnight, it's not going to go away overnight. So I need you to take the time to get clear and realize when it's bumping up against your ability to profit that base. Hello. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So now some of you might be saying, but how am I going to renew my mind? Well, let's dissipate the lies that maybe you've been feeding yourself based on your bankroll zip code and you don't even know you've been feeding yourself these lies. You know, when I talk about lies, When I talk about the lies that you feed yourself about how you're looking at your profit, which is again your base of profitability, it makes me think of this. Would you ever feed yourself, or would you eat a molded piece of bread? How about some meat that had been in the refrigerator and you smell it right before you're gonna cook it and it smells rotten? Would you cook it and then serve it to yourself? See, what we don't realize is we feed ourselves that rotten bread, that rotten meat, when we allow the lies that have been placed inside of us based on our bankroll zip code to live and not dissipate them. So let's talk about some of them. And by the way, this is where a lot of this has to do, at least I know for me, spiritual influences. So I'm gonna go deep in spiritual, but it's gonna bump up against the other four as well, y'all. You ready? Okay, so three lies about money. Here's the first one. Woo, this is a big one, y'all. This is the one I dealt with for years. Blessed are the poor. Now, that's not what the Bible verse says, but I got to come off camera again on this one. I don't know who in what church. Can I keep it real? Can I keep it all the way real, y'all? So I don't know who in what church told us that we were supposed to struggle, that struggle was spiritual. Who told us that? And as my mentor would say, broke ain't biblical. It's not. But somewhere along the way, we signed up for the struggle. Why? I remember, and I have a slide on this later, but I'm gonna say it now. I remember when I finally did the work to dissipate my bankroll zip code and really started to learn and build my base so that I can profit. Again, that base is the stronghold, could keep you there, right? Your base can be positive or negative, by the way. Negative 9 times out of 10 is that stronghold. Okay. Y'all with me? Y'all are quiet in the comments tonight. Y'all are quiet. Am I going all the way in, y'all? So listen, I need you to understand this. When I finally started making money, the very first place that called me was a church. I'm like, really, Lord, why you got to go have a church call me to speak? Now I'm charging for my speaking fee, right? And before that, I appreciate you, Sherry. Before that, listen, y'all, I had been going to speak for free. Why? Because it's what I'm called to do. This is my ministry. My ministry is women in business, and any place that calls me, I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna get there. You know. So I had hired a coach. I started working with my coach. She helped me dissipate my bankroll zip code, the negative parts of it. And then right when I felt was feeling good and feeling like, okay, I got this handled, the very first place that called me to speak was a church. I'm like, really, Lord, why you got to test me like this? So when the first lady asked me what my speaking fee was, I told her my fee. And she said, okay. And then she said, do you have an airline you prefer? And did you like the Hilton or the Marriott? And I'm thinking to myself, what? So when I hung the phone up, I had a little bit of an attitude with God. Let me keep it real, y'all. Like, Lord, this wasn't even that hard all this time. But again, it was I had to renew my mind. God said, let me find a slide real quick. Here's what he said back to me. Or maybe I don't have it on slide. I don't remember. So let me just say it. Service and struggle should never coexist. Why would I give you a gift and want you to struggle to do it? Why? Does that sound like a Heavenly Father? Does that sound like a King of Kings? If he's a King of Kings and we're all kings and queens, why would a king want his daughter to struggle? And yet, somewhere in my mind, I felt like I had to struggle to do this thing that God has called me to do. Not real. I had to renew my mind. So, what I call that is poverty mentality, right? I said this a minute ago, being broke ain't biblical, right? So I need you to get this. This is the fundamental thing you've got to shift here. If this is where you are, and listen, you could have a six-figure paycheck at your 9 to 5 and still have broke mentality, or excuse me, poverty mentality. Okay? Because you feel guilty. So when you feel guilty for making money, poverty mentality. When you feel guilty for driving a Mercedes, guess what? Poverty mentality is still present. When you do God's work, He wants to give you a rich and satisfying life. If you missed that, go back and watch episode 1, y'all. Okay, so let me break down where this first lie came from. Now, this Bible verse is both in Matthew 5:3, or you can read it in Luke 6:20. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So many of us think it's blessed are the poor. He says poor in spirit. Now, let me tell you that this comes from a time. Now, first of all, when the Bible says poor in spirit, it's talking about those who are humble. Okay. So the accusers Jesus was talking about in this Bible verse were depending on their possessions, their riches for happiness. Jesus was talking to a certain group of rich people who were persecuting the poor because of their faith. So the rich people are so focused on their material possessions, and the poor are focused on their faith. So what he was saying, well, the poor were being poor in spirit; they were being humble, and the rich were being full of themselves. Y'all see the difference? So God never said, "Blessed is the poor." He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." Come on, get that Bible verse right, y'all. Right? What I need you to get, and this is the New Living Translation, the thief, his purpose is to steal and kill and destroy. My purpose, this is Jesus saying it, is to give them a rich and satisfying life. That's where I got that from. See, I often quote the New King James Version that says, I've come, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And then Jesus says, but I've come that you have life and have it more abundantly. The New Living Translation says, my purpose is to give you a rich and satisfying life. And I said this a minute ago, struggle and service should never coexist. So this is the first mentality. So let me leave with this on this first mentality. The plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. So it doesn't say you're supposed to be poor. It's talking about how hard you're working or not working. Okay. So, second lie about money is I should be happy with what I have. Like, how dare I want more? I'm doing good. How can I shouldn't want more? Listen, that's what I call a settle mentality. I need you guys to really get this. And let me come off camera for this too. Listen, when you're in a settled place, God is going to let you live on whatever level you settle for. If you serve a small God, then you live a small life. See, I serve an abundant God. So I want to go after my abundantly above all life. Hello, what about you? So abundantly above all. Let me go back. I go all the way in, but let me calm down. Let me calm down. Okay. I said this already. Which are you going to choose, y'all? You're going to choose to serve a small God or an abundantly above all God. Okay. So here's what I want you to get. When God is calling you to your next level, when God is calling you to your next level, it is going to be scary. But if you're going after abundantly above all, if He's doing bigger than you could ever ask or think, it's going to be scary. I believe God puts us in places like this, so we have to trust Him, that we don't rely on our own self or what we know or who we know or our resume or our bio. He wants to check your faith, not your bank account, your bio, your resume, the people you know. He don't care about none of that. That's why God doesn't care if you buy Gucci either. When God is calling you to your next level, it's going to be bigger than where you are. So you can either settle or shift. You can't do both. You've got to choose. So let me give you an example of this, and then I got one more step, and I'm gonna try to wrap up, and it ain't gonna be 30 minutes, y'all. It's gonna be a little over. But listen, this is a story. Moses. So you guys know the story of Moses, probably, where Moses comes, he delivers his people, and God promises them the promised land. So now they're on the edge of the promised land. This is in Numbers chapter 13. So I'm not gonna go in the whole story. I'm giving you the Cliff Note version so you can read the whole story if you want to go read it. So listen. They are getting ready to go and take the land. Moses sends 12 spies to go look just to see what's happening out there so they can prepare to go take it. So when they get there, they see that there's a big army there. Okay. So of the 12 spies, 10 of them say, oh, we can't beat them. Mm-mm. What happens in that moment is Caleb and Joshua say, oh, we can take it. See, then Caleb quieted the people before Moses said, y'all hush. Let us go up at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it. See, they were willing to take the shift. They weren't going to settle. They're like, listen, why would God pull us all the way up here, get us to the edge of our promised land, and not let us take it? So again, 10 of them were allowing fear to make an emotional judgment. They were letting their bankroll zip code keep them where they are instead of doing the work to dissipate where they are. They were not going to set. Listen, Joshua and Caleb were like, we're not settling here. So my question to you is, are you going to be part of the 10 who stop in fear or one of the 12 who move forward in faith? Mm. Again, your face would settle or shift. I said this, I'm going to say this over and over again. If God has come that you have life and have it more abundantly, I need you to understand what that means, y'all. So I told you about the first lie that moves you in, that you are settling. Your bankroll zip code means you're living in poverty mentality. I know that's right, Shirley. Shirley said, I'm shifting. That's right. Who else is saying I'm shifting? Ready to claim that I'm shifting? Write it in the comments. If you're saying, yes, I'm ready to shift, come on, Shirley, name it and claim it out loud. I love it. Okay. The second lie is I should be happy, which means you are in settle mentality. Before I give you the third one, I want you to really, really get this, y'all. Okay. That's right, Sherry. Sherry says I'm shifting. Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think. I want you to really think about what that means according to the power that works in us. Now, according to the power that works in us is our next series. God has already told me that. So y'all hang tight for the series that's coming after this one. I can't wait to go into that one with you, but I'm not going to talk about that now. I want you to get this first part. Who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. Have you ever thought about what this Bible verse means? Break it down. God that is able to do. Listen, nothing's too hard for God. How able is God? Have you ever thought about that? How able is God? What can he do? Well, the Bible verse is full of testimonies of things that God did. And I bet you have stories from your own life. And if you don't have any, then get ready because you're about to have some. What has God been able to do through you, for people around you? You're a daughter of the king. I remember I said, my daddy's wealthy. How dare I not think that I can do this when my daddy is wealthy? And so is yours. Hello. With God, nothing shall be impossible. There's the Bible verses, by the way. Things that are impossible with men are possible with God. Sometimes I think that the stronghold that gets in us is that when we start looking at how we're going to grow our business or how we're going to start our business or how we're going to do this thing that God has rumbling inside of us, and we start looking at what we see possible. Well, when God is giving you a dream, it's beyond what you can see. Again, abundantly above all you can ask or think. Are y'all getting this now? If you need an example of this, go look at Genesis. See, God just thought of the world and the entire world was formed. He chose to do it step by step because God is strategic and he's full of strategy. Hello. But I need you to get God thought a thing and it happened. So when you say, well, I can't do this. And I remember one time I was telling my auntie something that I couldn't do. And this is what she said back to me. Don't limit God's ability to bless you. I say that all the time to myself now. Or I add to that, or to use you. Don't limit him. Okay. So let me give you the third one. I'm going over time. I like to be here 30 minutes, but hopefully y'all are getting some good content here. And I need you to get that one of these three is a place that you are stuck in. I need you to do the work to dissipate the lie that could keep you away from your abundantly above all. And if you're not willing to do the work, dare I say, then why do you join me live? Why are you watching the replay? Please opt out because you are not ideal to be in my tribe. I want to grow a group of women, an army of women that are willing to do what it takes to be who God has called each of us to be, which does include us making profit. Come on, somebody. I need to be making more. Now, I'm not saying that you can't make more money. I need you to understand what I mean by this. But it's when you focus on money, your focus is on you. I need I. Instead of what your money's doing for the kingdom. There's a difference, y'all, right? Focus on me. And I want this and I want that. And I want to buy all these things and all the things you want to acquire. Now, again, God doesn't care if you buy Gucci. Y'all gonna hear me say that all the time. He don't care. Matter of fact, I believe that we all should be able to treat ourselves every now and then for working so hard. Nothing wrong with giving yourself a little gift because I got a Gucci or two. Hello. Right? But that's not my focus. So you want to make sure that you are not having a pride mentality or what I like to call a who gonna check me boo mentality. Y'all remember that? Who gonna check me boo? y'all people, all of y'all that watch reality shows. But anyway, so this is when you're focused only on success. You're not focused on gain. Now, those of you that watched episode one, again, if you missed it, the word profit means to gain. And God is looking at if you're going to gain for Him. His reward back to you is profit, but it's really looking at how you're using what He's giving you. So listen, Bible verse that's going to substantiate this here. Command those who are rich in this present age not to be haughty, nor to trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God who gives us richly all things to enjoy. Y'all see that word, all things to enjoy. So God wants us to enjoy our life. He wants you to be able to take trips and do things for yourself and right. But those things should not be your focus. Okay. So are you trusting on the source or the resource? Now I'm gonna dig into this all next week. So I'm not gonna talk about this long. Next week is gonna be all because listen, sometimes we don't realize the difference. I'm gonna break this down for you, right? It's really, but what I want you to get here is that your focus is what matters, okay? It's the love of money. I talked about this last time. I'm not going to go into this now. So if you missed part two, go back and watch it. The love of money. That's that pride mentality. When you love money and I need to get money, I need to get it. For which some have strayed from the faith and their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. Again, part two was based truly solely on this. I'm not going to go into this, but I really need you to understand how this ends and lands here in pride mentality. Are you pursuing money? Or are you pursuing your purpose? Big difference, y'all. All right. Because money really is energy. And energy goes where energy flows. God knows you need money to be able to do the things He wants you to do. So, of course, He needs you to go and get it. But you got to do it for the right reasons. You got to be willing to multiply what He's giving you. We're going to talk about that here too. And He's going to give you more, but He's going to look at how you're using what He's already given you. Okay. So 3 steps to redefine your base of profitability. And I hope this is helping y'all. Define your bankroll zip code. And then once you find where your mindset is living, dissipate the lie that keeps you there. Is it poverty mentality? And have an honest conversation with yourself. Is it settle mentality or is it pride mentality? Are you always worried about how are we going to do this? Worry is poverty mentality. Pride mentality is saying, well, I need to do this so I can buy that thing. Now, of course, God wants you to be able to live. So, of course, if you want to buy a house, nothing wrong with that. But you've also got to be doing things in decently and in order. That's what just came in my head, right? So the last one, sorry to say this. How does your profit praise? Need you to get this. This is when your money's gaining for God. Your profit is actually praise for God. You guys get that? Mm-hmm. All grace is able to make, excuse me, and God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that you always having all sufficiency in all things. All sufficiency, y'all know what that means. That means you have more than enough. May have an abundance for every good work. See, God wants to give you an abundance for the work you're doing, but you've got to do it for the right reason. So here's what I want you to get. Profit that blesses God is really when you are serving your purpose and you're having the dominion He created you to have in this world. Is then creating profit from it, which is gain for God. Because listen, when I make more money in my business, that means that I can serve more people. That means I can hire teams so that we can have bigger influence. You guys getting this? Yes. And here's the thing, you guys, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So don't wait till you get to heaven to do it. God's looking for what you're going to do here. I talked about that in part one. So as God gives you more, how are you moving that forward? All of us have a role to play. That's that dominion. And many of you don't even realize that your career, your business is the lane that God created you to dwell in. So to do that, you got to release any negative attachment with profit. You've got to release any negative attachment that's keeping you. So that's that base of your profitability, y'all. It's the stronghold that could keep you from gaining for God. And God's gift back to you is that you gain as well, right? So it's not about your access to capital. It's about your viewpoint and how you grow what you have. So we'll talk more about this in coming episodes, but I really want you to take some time and look at where you are in your base of profitability. Because if your base is weak, I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how many classes you take. I don't care how much money you have already invested in the bank. You're limiting God's ability to bless you. Listen, if I'm gonna have $1 million business and then move into my $1 billion, first of all, I'm from the hood. For me to even have a six-figure business, nobody in my neighborhood ever. We were robbing Peter to pay Paul. And now I'm working on my $1 million. And then after my million, I'll be working on my 5 million. And I'm gonna keep going. Why? Because that means I can do more in, listen, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I want to do my part. So when I get to meet God face to face, he will say, girl, I'm proud of you. I want the same for you. I appreciate you, Gabet. I hope I'm saying your name right. You are so welcome. So listen, this is part three, y'all. If you missed part one or part two, go back and watch it. I will come back next week. We're going to dig more. This is a six-part series. And so we're going to dig more into part of our conversation tonight. Is God your source or listen, are you focused on source or resource? We're going to look at that too. Because all of this, listen, yes, I know many of you want to know how do you make money in your business, but listen, let me say it like this. If I put a seed in dirt that is not properly nurtured for that seed would never grow. And many of you, the reason your business is stagnant or you haven't started it or anywhere in between is because you have the seed, your brilliance is settling in a place that will not allow it to grow. That's that base of profitability. All right. So again, thank you guys for joining me. Please tell me at least one thing you got valuable. Second thing I want to ask you to do is if you got any value today, share it. If you're on Facebook, there's a share somewhere button. And on YouTube, you could tag people, share it. Why? Not because I'm trying to grow my following, but because I am trying to be obedient to my calling and really holding a space to go after the profit that God has created you to do and to be in this world. All right. So with that, I'll see y'all next Monday for part 4 of this series. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.